everybody. Welcome to our live video today. We are going to be having my friend Emily join us from Accidental Hippies. I'm so excited for her to join and to learn all about her experience building a cordwood home. So once she hops on, then I will pull her onto here and we will get started. Let's see if this lighting is better. Nope. Hi, Emily. Let me add you onto here. There we go. All right. We're adding Emily on, the woman who built an off-the-grid home with her family, a cordwood home, which is an amazing style. Hey, Emily.
Hey.
How are you doing today?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I love that cordwood in the background there. It's so pretty. Okay, so Emily is joining us. We are both in Kentucky, in the Bluegrass State, and she's joining us. She's a little bit more up north. My family and I were a little bit more central. And so today's interview this is exciting. We're going to be talking with Emily from Accidental Hippies. She has her own blog there with her husband. And they built an off-the-grid home on, I think, how many acres do you have up there?
Yeah,
How
16
much
and a
is it?
half.
16 and a half? Okay,
16.
awesome. Okay, cool. We might have a little bit of a delay because we both live in the country, so I know I have satellite internet. Is that how you are connected as well?
No, actually, we have, and this could be good info for any aspiring off-gridders. We have a hotspot. We have really good LTE where we live. So, like, actually, there's my little hotspot right there.
Okay,
And that's cool. Take it anywhere I want to go to. So, like, if I do a live
awesome.
video from out house, I just take it with me.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. We tried the hotspot here at our house, but it wasn't going to work. We're like right in the middle of like two hills, so it's not very good here. But okay, so when you're hopping on, everyone who's hopping on, go ahead and comment where you're watching from. I love to see where everyone is coming in. If we have anyone from out of the country, just from all over the United States, it's always great to see where everyone's hopping in from. So go ahead and comment below where you're hopping in from. And are you interested in building an off-the-grid house? Are you interested in living off-grid? If you are, is there a certain type of home that you've been interested in? Have you ever heard of cordwood? And any of you who are already living off-grid, go ahead and comment below if you are, because that's really super cool. And I know my husband and I, we are really looking forward to building our own off-the-grid house here in a few years. We live here on about 40 acres. We actually homestead with another family, but there were two homes already here, so we're living here as we pay this off, and then the plan is to build off-grid. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Caitlin Brooks. I live here in Kentucky with my 3 children and my husband, and I've always been interested in kind of natural living, and just as things kind of have progressed, I've gotten more and more crunchy, but I'm kind of half crunchy. I'll still eat a burger here and there. I'll still go through a drive-through every now and then or whatever. I'm not too regimented about it, but I do use family cloth. We cloth diaper, and we, do different things that are along the lines of crunchiness. So, I have my notes here. So that's how we're living currently, but our goal is to build off the grid. And a few years ago, we came across this book of cordwood masonry. This is by Rob Roy, who is pretty much like the guru of cordwood home building. And I saw it, and I was just like, this is gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's just so eye-catching. There's a lot of artsy stuff that you can do with it. So I quickly fell in love with it. I talked with my husband. He was like, yeah, that's super cool. And so we just kind of delve into it and started looking into it. And, we've put it on the back burner for a little bit, but both of us have kind of been getting back into the mindset of it. And the other day, this is a funny story, I wake up and I look at my computer And on my computer is this blog that was left open. And my husband had been on the computer the night before. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Like, look at these people. They built this cordwood house. And Emily doesn't know this. I haven't told her the story yet. And so, and so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so neat. So I'm looking at this blog and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Wow. And then I'm trying to figure out where they live because I'm like, I need to know these people. Like, they built this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're in Kentucky. And so I was like, immediately started looking at her blog. And I'm kind of like the person that I'm going to, if I want to find somebody, I'm going to find them. So I'm like, she's got to be on Facebook. So I'm like getting on Facebook. I'm like, is she on Facebook? I tried to connect with our center message. And so I kind of let her know. And I was like, I would love to interview you for my Facebook page. And so anyways, fast forward to the end of the day, and my husband gets off work and he calls me and he says, hey babe, I don't know if you saw, but I left, he was like, last night I was looking at some cordwood off the grid stuff and I came across this family who they lived in Kentucky and so I just let him talk. I didn't interrupt him. And he was like, yeah, they live in Kentucky. They built a cordwood home and it's gorgeous. And, you know, they did it, babe. Like they did it. And, you know, maybe just maybe we could somehow you could possibly connect with them and maybe see, and because I'm the social one of the two of us, my husband's not going to be the one to approach anybody. And I just let him talk. And I'm like, yeah, I already talked to her. I was like, I already have an interview set up in 2 weeks. And I'm going to be interviewing all about her process. And he was like, no way. And I'm like, yeah. So anyways, that's kind of how I came to find out about Emily and her blog, Accidental Hippies. So if you guys ever want to check that out, please check it out. I think what is it? Is it accidentalhippies.com? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And so they documented their whole process of building this off-the-grid home. It's a cordwood home, which is gorgeous. And so anyways, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to Emily. And Emily, if you could go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself and your family, that would be great.
Okay. Well, we're a family of three. It's my husband and I and a 4.5 son who is the light of our world. And he's kind of the reason we started doing all of this, because we lived in a little suburban house in a little cul-de-sac kind of neighborhood. And, you know, we were doing everything that you're supposed to do. You know, we went to college, we got our degrees. Mine is in music education, his is in music performance. And we went out and we got jobs in those areas. And, you know, we were doing everything we're supposed to do. We had the debt to go with it. We had the mortgage to go with it. But we always kind of had this, again, like crunchiness in the background. Like I saw the question up there, what is crunchy? And, you know, we kind of like granola crunchiness, like hippie kind of stuff, like using cloth diapers. Like we cloth diapered the whole way through, making your own cleaners, using essential oils, that kind of stuff. And for us, it was always accidental because we never really set into it like, oh, I'm going to save the planet or anything. It's like, oh, hey, this is a really good way to save money and simplify. And, oh, it happens to also be really good for the planet, good for our health, good for all this stuff. And the more we got into it, the more we're like, this is a better way to live. And we had, between magazines that were given to us and our own subscription, we probably had a crate or two full of Mother Earth News magazines. And they'd always, you know, every once in a while would have like build your own home mortgage free with cordwood, or sometimes you'd see straw bale or other earth shift kind of techniques. But cordwood always kind of stood out to us. And we always kind of had this dream, like one day we're going to buy some land and we're going to build a house. And we just never did, because most people, you know, have dreams and then they just never do them. And we were kind of like that until we had our son. And we started to realize if we don't do it now, we're never going to do it. So we made a plan. We looked at the money situation. We looked at everything that we were doing. And we came up with a plan of what we were going to do, how we were going to attack this, and laid everything out. And we sold our house, our nice little suburban ranch house, sold it and bought 16 acres of raw land out in the country and set to building this house. So that's kind of how we got to this point.
That's awesome. I like that you said, like, you know, there comes a point where you're like, if we're not going to do it now, we're never going to do it. And just being honest with yourself. And that's how kind of my husband and I, we came to living to where we're at, is we were just like, we want to get out of the city life and the suburbs. And so we, like, people often ask us, like, because we moved here from Ohio, and they'll say, you know, what brought you to Kentucky? And we say, land. We found a piece of land that we liked, and that's pretty much it. My husband had a job that was easily transferable. The other family that we moved down here with, he was working on the road, so the wife was able to really just move wherever, and so it worked out. And it was just like we wanted the land, we wanted the freedom. We knew eventually we would build off grid, but you know, we wanted the freedom for now, for our child to really just run and play and just be free and be a child. And so, yeah, so I love that about your story. Okay, so tell us, okay, so what exactly made you decide, I don't think you touched on this, decide cordwood compared to other styles? Like, was there anything in particular that kind of made you settle on that versus some of the other really economical ways to build a house?
Yeah, well, for us, it was taking a look at what resources are really available to us, where we are and where we wanted to be. We knew we wanted to stay in this area because our family is mostly here, and we didn't want to go far away and travel. So we, looked around, and cedar trees are everywhere here. They're like a weed. And we knew that we could get a piece of land that would have an abundance of cedar that we could cut down and use for cordwood. It would cost us probably quite a bit of money to get enough straw bales if we wanted to go with a straw bale kind of design. Like, that would kind of defeat the purpose of trying to save money and limit the mortgage situation. So, and plus cordwood is really the learning curve is not that steep for cordwood. It's relatively easy for an owner builder to build with cordwood and not mess it up. Like, there's a lot of other building styles where, like, if you oversight one little thing, you're gonna have like bad moisture problems, or it's gonna rot away over time. And cordwood can be like that if you don't do it right. You do need to know what you're doing. But we were able to teach friends and family how to do it in like 15 minutes and then have them build with us, which was really cool. So
okay,
we like
awesome
that.
Yeah, hey Lily from Vermont. Awesome. Thanks for joining in. Thanks, Charla, for joining in. I know we had someone in here from Germany. That's wonderful. Mary Lou, Stephanie, everyone, Tony, thank you all for joining in. Victoria, it's awesome having you guys on here, so I really, really appreciate it. Okay, so you were talking about cordwood, and I know some people on here might not be aware of what exactly cordwood is. So if you want to just give like a brief explanation of what cordwood is and like how to build with it just really quickly.
Okay. Yeah, so if you think about a traditional log cabin, log construction, you see logs laid on their sides with the end grains like to either end, and the side grain is what is out. Cordwood is different, and you can kind of see it behind me, where we take trees and we cut them into logs of a certain length. Ours are 16 inches, so you build with the log ends facing out on both sides of the wall. And then you put mortar. We mixed ours with lime putty and masonry sand. We had just a dump truckload of masonry sand, and you make a mortar out of it. And you build mortar on either side, and then you put insulation in the middle. And my kiddo, you're going to hear him in a minute because his movie is over.
That's fine. That's fine.
But you build with the logs out, and you build up a little bit of a time. And I have pictures of all of this on my blog. I have a post called Cordwood for Beginners, and that should be easily accessible from the homepage. But I also have all of our monthly building updates. I tried really hard to make that something that we were really conscientious about. Oh, here he is now. And he helped us build too. So, hey, you want to say hi? No?
Yeah, say hi, buddy.
Okay. Hey, come up here. Maybe not. This is real life.
Hey, it's good. It's fine.
Hold on. So, but yeah, it's easy enough. You have a real problem. All right, I'm going to take you with me. And you can see the, there you go.
Oh, we'd love to see. It's beautiful.
Okay. So all of the exterior walls are cordwood. You can see, like here, we have tongue and groove pine on everything else. Okay, good. Okay.
Where did you get your tongue and groove pine?
And you can see the bottles there. So that was one of the cool things that, this is having a hard time, is that you can use resources like that are easily available and kind of repurpose, reuse, keep things out of landfills. There is a winery near us that we contacted them, and we were like, what do you do with your extra bottles? They said, oh, we just get rid of them. I'm like, what do you mean you just get rid of them? Because what I'm thinking, you know, on a credit level, glass is like the most easily recyclable thing.
Yeah.
And two, they just give these away. So like, can I just take your extra bottles? And they're like, yeah, sure. So so I got like 200, 300 bottles for free, and we were able to make bottle bricks. You can see there. Anthony, I'm trying to turn this back on. Okay, calm down. So it took us we started the Cordwood in mid-July or so of 2016. We finished it the day before Halloween that same year. So it took us that long to do all of the exterior walls. And then from there, it was mainly finishing out the inside, doing, we have cedar on the outside. That's just like rough cut cedar that we used for our siding on the gable ends, which like, there's a gable end up there. The other side of that is cedar. So yeah, but I have posts on the blog about what Cordwood is basically for beginners, how you can get started, some of the resources. You have the book by Rob Roy. We did a clinic. Well, my husband did a clinic with Rob Roy up in New York, helping to build a neighbor's garage for him. So he got to go up there and learn all about the technique. And then he came back and taught me because I was teaching at the time. I have since quit my job, and we had graduation the same weekend as that clinic, and I was not allowed to miss graduation.
Yeah.
I'm taking care of you. So he went up there. He learned it was a weekend clinic, so he went up like Thursday night, came back Sunday evening, and got to learn and make a lot of really cool contacts with people. Anthony, please stop. Thank you.
Yeah, I know that's something my husband and I both would love to do is go to one of Rob Roy's clinics. I know he does those periodically where he teaches people hands-on learning of how to build with cordwood and how awesome that is. And there are different styles out there for those of you joining in. Thank you all for joining in. Thanks, Sammy and Lydia. The name of her blog is accidentalhippies.com.
Yes.
And they go through their whole process of building this gorgeous off-the-grid cordwood home. And I know someone asked, like, is it very expensive to build on raw land? She asked, is it very expensive to build on raw land? Is that something you want to address?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I'll get you a drink. So it's as expensive as you make it. We could have probably built smaller and made some different choices and paid a little money to do it. All told, our home cost about $85,000 to build, which is not expensive at all, especially for, yes, Anthony, especially for a new home. Like, that's like nothing. And and that includes all the permits, that includes having the septic field built for us, that includes all of our excavation, the foundation, driveway gravel, like all sorts of stuff. That's not just the house materials. That's prepping the land. That's getting the building permits. And for those who have been wondering, is it easy to get building permits for a cordwood style home? It wasn't as hard as you would think, but it definitely took a little bit more effort than, say, having a builder come in and do it for you. Because it's not a very well-known method. I'm like trying to fill this cup here. It's not a very well-known method. A lot of building inspectors might not be familiar with it. So we took, there's a book out there called Cordwood and the Code. We took that, we took our, all of our cordwood books, so every single book about cordwood that we own, we took and we left with the inspector. And my husband had many meetings with him, mostly while I was at work, because his schedule worked out that way, and he was a little bit more knowledgeable about other other things regarding building, like electrical, plumbing, things like that. He just has a really good working knowledge of. So he was able to go in and have face-to-face meetings, and then the inspector was really receptive to that and really appreciated that we took the time to get to know our building style and to understand what we were undertaking. I think if we had gone in there just like, yeah, we want to slap together a house, he would have been like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to know what you want to do.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
sure.
And you obviously did your research. And Rob Roy's books are great. And he even has some, for those of you joining in, like there's a book by Rob Roy, Cordwood Masonry. He has several books, but he even has some blueprints out there that like you can just purchase the blueprints and all of that. And it would be approved by any, home building inspector, that kind of a thing. So, but that's always just like a great resource. Okay, so you said how long the build took you as far as to get the outside walls up was about 3 to 4 months. And then about how long did it take you to get, the inside, livable, I guess, the walls up and things like that?
Because livable now, but there is not, all of our trim is not done. We still haven't done the grading for the outside yet. There's still a step that we haven't built on the front door. So there's stuff like that. But the building inspector was satisfied with what we had completed by like mid-December, or around like December 20th is when he gave us our permit to move in. We thought we were just going to get the temporary, and he gave us the full occupancy permit. And we thought, oh, okay. So it took us we broke ground officially on the foundation in April of 2016, and it took us until December of 2017 to be able to move in. And we moved like a few days before Christmas. It was insanity. But we got in here just in time for all the cold weather to hit and such. So that was fun.
Yeah, that would have been very hectic, I'm sure, right around Christmas time, but also very rewarding. What a great Christmas that would have been to finally be in the house that you've been working for so long. So that's wonderful. When you were living in your house and then you bought the land and you started building, were you just transitioning from your house to land, or did you buy maybe like an RV and live on the land? An RV, or was your house your old house close enough to your new home?
No, we actually moved in with my mom for a little over 2.5 years while we built. So we sold the house in February of 2015, and then we moved in with her, and we paid her like a rent, and we took care of things around the house, and just co-lived for that amount of time while we built. And she's about 15 minutes away from our property. So, it was a decent drive to get there, but it wasn't like a life-altering drive or anything. We wanted to stay close. So we lived with her until December. She's watching, I think. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. And hi, Trista. Thanks for hopping on. Hey, Matt. Thank you guys for hopping on so much. Okay, so we already talked about how long the build took you. How did you dry your wood? Because that's a very important step with cordwood building. You want to make sure that the wood is properly dried. You want to strip the bark, that kind of thing. So go ahead, and you want to talk about that process at all?
Yeah, so if you're going to build with cordwood, you can't just like take any old logs and throw them in a wall. You have to prep your wood and think about it well in advance. So I say we bought the property in 2015, and we didn't start building the cordwood until 2016. Most of the wood was drying during that time. So what we did, right where I'm standing, there used to be a little pole barn that the previous owner had built to it was little. It was like maybe 8 by 12, and he had a camper under it, and he'd come up and go hunting. We disassembled that and moved it down the hill a little ways, and built a platform for it to keep the wood raised up off the ground. And if it wasn't raining cats and dogs, I would just take you out there and show you. But there is a post on the blog about how to prep cedar trees for cordwood building. And I show the shed a little bit. We just stacked it in there. It's open on all 4 sides, and it has a big metal roof with a really large overhang. It's like 2 or 3 feet out over the edge on all sides. And that kept most of the weather off of it. We started cutting down wood in April of 2015 or so, and we were able to cut and peel and segment the logs pretty easily until about September. That's when the bark starts to harden to the inner part of the tree. So after that, it was just like pulling our hair out to try to prep logs. So we stopped, and whatever we had is what we had. But in the summertime, the trees are like nice and moist, especially after a rain. The bark practically peels itself off. So you cut it, we would cut it down, and a lot of times it was from the hill on our driveway. So we'd tie it up with a chain and hitch it to the truck, and then pull it to the top of the hill, where we would finish trimming off all of its branches until it was just the trunk. We would peel off all of the bark. I used a tomahawk. That's what I liked the most. Mark used a knife. Some people say draw knives. We have a draw knife. I never really used it. Unless the bark is really stuck on there, it's just kind of unnecessary. You can peel it like in line with the grain, and it comes off in big sheets sometimes. And that was pretty easy. And then I would mark the log at every 16 inches, and Mark would take a chainsaw and slice them into those 16-inch logs. And then we would stack them in the shed, and we left them there until the next year, and they dried. You want it to dry to roughly 12 to 16% moisture content. And we measured that with a little moisture meter. You can get them on Amazon. And they have like these two little props, poke it into the end of a log, and it tells you what percentage moisture it is. When they're freshly cut, they're all 30 to 40%. After a few days, they all kind of fell to around 25. And then over the next several months, they dried to between 12 and 16. Now, when we got to that following summer and we were getting ready to do our cordwood, we realized that we did not have enough to do the whole house. So we cut down about 10 more trees. And even so, we should have done a few more, but we were kind of pressed for time. So we cut down a few more. And in the hot summer sun, they dried to around 16 to 20. But like I wanted to, they weren't as seasoned as the newer ones. So what we did was we strategically placed those on the eastern wall. And in our area, the eastern side of your house doesn't really get a direct beating from the weather. Most of our weather tends to come in from the west and the north. So we put the newer logs on the east side to kind of protect them and keep them from shrinking and like being exposed to things that could rot them. And we put the more seasoned logs on the north and west sides. So that was a really, if you have to build with logs that are somewhat wet, that's a good way to go. But ideally, if you want to build with cordwood, you need to let them dry for at least a year, just to let them season dry properly.
Okay, awesome. And let's talk about bottle bricks, because that's one of my favorite things. That's one of the things I'm really looking forward to, and that's what I love about Cordwood Home is there's just this ability to really add some artistic flair and features to the house. If you want to go ahead and get up, if you don't mind, get up and show everyone the bottle bricks again, maybe where the light is shining through. Look at that, guys. Look how beautiful that is in their walls there. And look, I think are those some marbles, glass marbles you added there to it too?
Yeah, so actually I didn't do any of these. This was all built on a day that we had family and friends up here helping us. And so they placed all these, and they're totally random, and I love that about these. Sometimes, like, the planned designs are okay, but the random ones are more beautiful just by the virtue of how random they are. And the marbles, my sister-in-law, we had bags of marbles from her mom, and I didn't know what to do with them. And she's like, do you want me to poke these into the walls? I'm like, sure. She's like, how sparkly do you want it? I said, I don't know. What I'm going to do is she likes sparkly, glittery stuff, kind of. So they're kind of everywhere. They're out in the living room, too.
That's
but we
so
do have
fun.
some plans as well. I have one. You can kind of see it. My shirt's in the way of the bottom one right now. But that is the constellation Orion.
Oh,
I have
wow, cool.
On the blog too. And
that's my husband's favorite constellation.
Mine too. So I need So I put that in our bedroom, and that's actually on my side of the bed, so I can like wake up and see it every morning.
Oh,
We
that's so
have
cool.
a Big Dipper in Anthony's room, but it's not my favorite the way it turned out. It's not true to shape, so not my favorite. We also have some hearts in the house too. There's one in his room. We didn't realize it was going to be in his room, but let me see if I can. There it is. There's a little
Oh,
heart.
so cool. I love it. I love that
Oh,
it brings some extra light in.
yeah.
Yeah,
Little blue truck. Maybe if you
that's
can
so
see
cool.
that
Okay, so
there.
talk to us about how you made the bottle bricks and that whole process.
Okay,
We know that you
this is
got a lot of the bottles from a winery, but just how do you make them?
okay. So depending on how long they are, like if they're wine bottles, sometimes they're a little too long, so you have to cut them because you want them to be 16 inches, just like the wall, or if you're building 18 inches or 40, whatever you're building. Um, so you either cut them, or if they're like, we used some jelly jars, we used some like beer bottles, which are a little bit shorter. Um, you either take your cut pieces or your whole bottles, whatever you have, and you put them together so the ends are out. So on the opposite side of all of these is a clear bottle that matches. And you put them together with, we used some aluminum flashing, and we made it like a tube, and then we taped it together with duct tape, pretty much. And I have a post on that too. It's all about building bottle walls and using bottles in cordwood walls. And it's really a pretty easy process. Some of the wine bottles, like I said, are a little big. You can't necessarily like put them like this or anything and have them go together. You need them open. So we cut those with a tile saw, and that was a pretty easy thing to do.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, give her some hearts for the bottle bricks and just the gorgeousness of this beautiful home and just
Oh, here's
um,
the
show her
mother.
some appreciation for all of this. Yeah, so beautiful. So, um, that's actually a question that I've been wondering about is like with the bottles, like did you find ones in particular that were perfect for the width of your house? Because that's one thing like I'm like I don't know. Haven't decided yet. Like, because he says 14, I think it's like 12 to 24 inches, anywhere from there you can choose. And so I've thought, do we want to do 16 or 18 or 20? Like maybe it'll be like
Mm-hmm.
whatever bottles I find that I love or that work well. And then we can accumulate easily that are the right width then when we butt them together. So like when you put, what she's saying is you put the necks of the bottles together. So let's see, okay, so I have a makeup bottle right here. So here's like the neck of it. And so then you would have like another bottle on the other side like this. And so then they're like that. And then you can tape them. She used duct tape. Some
Mm-hmm.
people will use sheet metal and then put a rubber band. Or some people will even like solder them together, which is, I think, too much energy going into it. It's a
That's
waste of
too much.
energy. Do it easier. Work smarter, not harder. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's what she's talking about. And so, yeah, do you want to like what bottles worked really well for you or ones that you really liked and where did you accumulate the pretty colored bottles and all that?
Okay. Well, I don't think there's really an optimal size. The beer bottles were probably easiest to work with because you didn't have to cut them if you didn't want to. The wine bottles I like because they're a little bit more stout and a little more sturdy. So when you put them in the wall, like they stay where you want them to stay. So they were all pretty easy. Working with jars and things also pretty easy. We had a lot of jelly, salsa jars, things like that. And when we were working on this, we got offers from all kinds of people who were clearing things out and saying, "Hey, I have crates full of old wine bottles in the barn. Do you want these?" Or I went to a winery near us and got 200 or so off of them, and they had a lot of the pretty colors. There are a few things that we went and got, and I don't know if it's too dark outside to really see this right now. There's a purple one. I don't think it's in this one. I think it's out front. That was like an old perfume bottle. We found it in an antique mall. And then
Oh,
there's a
cool.
big red one in front that was a vase. So we used that. And there's an orange something that was like maybe a glass. Some of these red ones, these are actually like old restaurant drinking glasses.
Oh, wow.
We found it in the mall. Yeah. So like if you look in, I don't know if you can even see that, but there's like ridges on the inside. You can see, you know, like old restaurant glasses have the little ripple effect on the side. Those are in
Yeah.
there. But we don't have too many of those. Mostly it's like, oh gosh, which one of the Bud Lights that's like, it's got a really blue bottle. It was actually, we looked at buying blue bottles, and it was cheaper to buy that beer and dump it out than it was to go buy empty bottles. It was not a, so, let's make some bread and move on with our lives.
Yeah.
But
That's funny.
it's just we would trade or things we got for free from friends or that we got from the winery.
Okay, awesome. So what were your favorite things about the build? What was your favorite things building either just an off-the-grid house or a Cordwood home? And then what was your least favorite thing?
Okay. Favorite things, Cordwood, for, you know, for what it is, that was a lot of fun. And I would do that all day, every day if I could, just because it's a really easy way to build. Once you've done the log prep, now I will say that, you know, Cordwood is kind of touted as like, it's easy for anybody, any ability. And that is true about the actual putting the logs in the wall part. You need to be pretty fit to chop trees down with a chainsaw in the heat of the summer. And we chucked logs. I felt like a Scottish lumberjack sometimes, like chucking logs up or down the hill, picking them up, moving the trees, clearing away branches. Like it was some pretty physically intense stuff. So if you're going to build with it, know that going in. You're going to work, you're going to develop some arm muscles you didn't know you had. Other favorite things, I really liked putting up the tongue and groove. So like it's all of our ceilings and it's all of our interior walls. And I liked that because it's so not like how drywall, you have to, yeah, drywall is cheap, but then you have to tape it and you have to mud it, which is an art unto itself. And you got to prime it, you got to paint it. It's a mess and it has dust everywhere. And tongue and groove, you put it up there, you use the nail gun, you secure it, and you're done. And it's gorgeous, just as it is. So I liked those things. Also getting the solar, once it was actually like operational and good to go and everything, that has been really cool to just see it and how it works. And to like, I mean, I have all the lights on right now. I have my computers going. My son is out there watching a movie. So, I mean, it's not like we live in the dark with candles and lanterns or anything. It works for us. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Least favorite things, putting up trusses. Now, my husband will argue this because he thought it was the best day ever. And I have never out in my life as having a guy up here with a crane truck wielding these 30-foot trusses through the air, because we have really tall trusses. I think it's an 8-12 pitch because we have a loft upstairs. Mm-hmm. And that was the most nerve-wracking thing. That whole day made me a nervous wreck. I will never do trusses again. I would build a lot smaller and closer to the ground because I also hate working at heights. So when we did all of the like putting up the sheathing and the Tyvek and the cedar siding, Mark did most of that stuff. We put the scaffold out there, and I let him go to town because I got up there once or twice, and I was just like, I would never, I don't like heights. I didn't know that about myself until we built it. So,
yeah.
I would do that differently. I see a question down here about shrinkage, which I didn't really address it. I talked about how we mitigated it. It was, have you had problems with your log shrinking and creating gaps? We built a dome house on top of a cordwood knee wall and have had lots of shrinkage that we filled in with clear caulk. No, we haven't really had issues with shrinkage. Probably, I'm trying to think, most of the stuff behind me is pretty well sealed. There's probably like one that springs to mind, like here. This is some pretty typical, like that's the most of our shrinkage really is about that. So it's mostly about prevention and making sure that you build with best practices So using softwoods as opposed to hardwoods, and if the cordwood knee wall was there already, there's only so much you can do about that. But some things that you can do: one, using only softwoods, because they will allow that expansion and contraction more easily than hardwoods will. If you build with hardwoods, you have to be really, really careful to have a very deep overhang and to protect it from the weather and to protect it from extreme temperature. Because what can happen, worst case scenario, with a hardwood wall is it'll expand and then it will buckle the wall, and then you'll have an unstable wall, and that's a very, very bad thing. So softwoods, if that's what you have available to you, and if you only have hardwoods, it can be done, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Next thing is to make sure that you dry your logs long enough. So I talked about how we let ours dry for at least a year, and to get them well seasoned to about 12 to 16% moisture. If they have to be more than that, like this is the wall that I mentioned earlier, that those are the newer ones. This is the east wall. We put the logs that were a little bit more wet on that wall because this doesn't get as much weather. I don't think it's weird if we have a storm approach from the east. So those logs are a little more protected. And you can even see that outside. They're less weathered looking than the ones on the west wall or the north wall. So making sure that you have that all prepped in advance, that will help a lot. And then too, she mentioned a knee wall. Something I think would have probably been good to do if we'd had the resources is build a knee wall out of concrete block or stone or something else that doesn't have the expansion and contraction issues. So you'll see a lot of times there's like a 2 or 3 foot concrete block wall at the very beginning, and then the cordwood can go on top of that. So that can help protect the wood that's at the bottom from splashback, like when it rains and the water hits the ground, things like that. So that'll help with the shrinkage. But we haven't really had any issues with extreme shrinkage because we took the time to prep.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for answering that question. I'm curious, how many trees did you use in total? I know you did 10 last minute trees, but how many in total would you say that it took?
We tried to keep count and then we lost track. If we had to guess, probably between 50 and 60 cedar trees. And our cedar trees are not huge. Probably the largest diameter we had was maybe between 15 inches and probably 20 feet long at the most, usually more like 15. And then, like some of the larger branches, we got to use those too. That's the cool thing about cordwood, that you can use those little imperfect ones. And a lot of times you need them. Like here's some itty bitty ones that were part of a branch. Those are there because there's a post on the other side. And so the logs there don't go all the way through the wall. So they're false pieces. So they're little, and those come in really handy. Sometimes you need a smaller log to fill in a space, because as you build, you'll start to notice like what kind of shape of log would be best in the mortar cradle that you just created from the previous part of your build. And that's something you learn that best with hands-on experience. So when you can do a clinic or, even, seeing a video is pretty good, but hands-on experience is definitely the best. That's the kind of thing you learn.
Yeah, and that is the beauty of cedar. We have a lot of cedar here on our land, and, we're planning on this summer is going to be the year where we're cutting it and storing it up and all of that. And the cool thing is that you can use huge trees, you can use tiny ones, you can use some of the branches, like you can use every bit of the tree. Where like a log cabin, you have to have it be a large log. It has to be a certain amount, or, a certain width or whatever. You can't really use, the smaller pieces, but for maybe a porch, railing or something like that. So anyways, that is the cool thing about a cedar tree, is you can use so much of the tree and really, use it up. So, okay. Now, if you could go back and change one thing, what would it be?
It would probably be building closer to the ground, so not doing the loft, and instead doing a plan that is longer and wider so that we could get more bang for our buck in terms of passive solar. So if you don't know what passive solar is, it's using the sun's natural motion in the sky to regulate the temperature and climate of your home. So we have some of that going on. Our home is directed straight south, and we have more windows on the south side to take advantage of the sun coming in, fewer on the east and west, and almost none on the north. Now we do have some windows on the north wall, but it's not nearly to the extent that it is on the south face. So we have that, but our home is shorter on the north-south axis and wider on the east-west sides. So the backside can be a little colder, especially on those really super frigid winter days like we had in early January, where it was like in the teens and the single digits. We noticed it more then, but it's not stark. But definitely, if you're building a new home, if you can orient it to the south, if you're, on raw land and you don't have to care whether it faces the road for curb appeal or anything, face it south, because you're going to get a much more efficient home as a result. Like, we have radiant heat and we have a wood stove. And even on those really cold days, we have to run off.
Sorry, I have a package delivery. Oh, it's Joe.
But yeah,
go ahead.
For any of you out there build and you have the option, orient your home to the south. If you're in the northern hemisphere, if you're in the southern hemisphere, all the opposite. So you face it to the north and have the back edge of the south. But the same, vice versa.
Yeah, I worked for a weaver for a little bit. She was a modern day weaver, and but she had one building that she specifically faced everything southward. She had windows it was like her new warehouse where she was going to store all of her yarn, all of her looms and everything, and all of them were south facing, and it was amazing how well that heated that small little building. So it was awesome. It wasn't little, it was like a small warehouse, I guess you would call it, or a decent sized barn for somebody, but it was all metal for the most part. But just having those windows down that way, it heated it really well. So yeah, south facing windows is awesome. Okay, did you have
road,
go ahead. What'd you say?
Most homes lose because they have to face the road, or they have to be a certain way so that they're like in line with the street, and it looks nice, but I think most of us have had that experience. You're in a house and there's like that one room that in the afternoon for 2 hours it's just inexplicably hot, and then it's cold all the rest of the time. That doesn't happen in this house. It's been like kind of weird to get used to. Like, it's just nice all the time.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of the Cordwood home. And that's something I really look forward to is she told us about the fact that the width of her house is the width of the Cordwood. So it's 14 inches, so that's way wider than most houses. That's so well insulated. So when it's, when you're trying to keep it cool in the summer, it's going to stay cooler. And when you're trying to keep it warmer in the winter, it's going to stay warmer because you're not going to have so much, going outside of what you're doing inside, and you're not having so much of the elements outside kind of infiltrating inside. I live in a trailer right now, and it is so affected by the outside elements because like the walls are like basically paper thin, and it's just awful, and air is just flowing underneath of us. And so I cannot wait till the day where we build our Cordwood home and we're living in it, because it's going to be awesome. And and the fact, you're doing it off grid, you don't have any bills. And that's the beauty of that. And what I don't want bills for the rest of my life. I want to be in a house. Oh, I'm sorry. I dropped you. I want to be in a house where we don't have any monthly bills or anything. Guys, I have a thing supposed to be coming today, a new tripod, and it didn't come. before this
Oh,
interview,
yeah.
so I'm just leaning you guys up against stuff. So forgive me for dropping you.
Hold on, Anthony.
I swear I care about
Hey.
you all. I would never drop you on purpose.
Okay. The one is scratched. Okay. So yeah, we have two bills. We have trash service, which I'm hoping. Okay, I'm hoping to get rid of that eventually. Like my goal is to be zero waste eventually, and to not have that bill. So right now, like we're still kind of getting rid of some construction things, and like we just, boxes of things will go out, as much as like the stuff that we can't recycle or reuse or give to somebody, that kind of stuff. But even still, we have like one bag of garbage a week. So I want to get that gone. And the only other watch that. So the other one is our internet bill, because I can't blog about it if I don't have the internet here. Because a lot of times, I'm working at like midnight, because that's just apparently when I can work.
Yeah.
We go to the library a lot, but to be able to do things here, to troubleshoot, do things like that, having the internet is a good thing.
I think yeah, I personally don't consider like internet being necessarily on grid. If your house is powered by, by your solar or by all of that, and you're using the internet, but it's powered by that, then hey, so be it. And a lot of off the gridders, like the reason they are able to live that life, or is because of having a blog or a YouTube channel or a different online business where they're able to earn some income, so they're able to be home, full time on their land and with their animals, and working the land and all of that. So yeah, it's definitely a blessing. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did your friends and family help you, and did you hire anything out?
We hired out quite a bit. Mostly we hired out the things that we didn't feel safe doing, or that we didn't feel like we had the expertise or the time to learn it. So like pouring our concrete piers and the slab, we didn't do that. Excavating the land and building the septic field, we hired that out. What else did we do? The spray foam insulation. So we have open cell spray foam in the ceiling and in like the stud walls. So like here's some stud walls on the front. This is the mud room where we have all the solar stuff and our laundry. We hired that out because like, yeah, sure, we could get the canisters and try to do it ourselves, but we had like 3,000 square feet to cover with insulation or something. Probably not that much. That was the tongue and groove. We probably had like 1,500 to 2,000 square feet to cover in spray foam. So we hired that out because if you don't do it right, it can be dangerous. So we wanted to avoid that. The roof we ended up hiring out because once we saw how tall our roof is and how steep it is, we thought there is no way either of us are going to be getting up there and handing the other person a 4x8 sheet of 3/4 inch plywood in the wind. Like that's not happening. So we hired that out and they had it done in a few days. Fine. And yeah, it's an expense, but so is my inevitable emergency room bill when I fall off it and break my neck. So
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The roof, the insulation, the concrete stuff. We did have to hire a solar contractor towards the end there, just to kind of get some things up to snuff, which. Like it was functional, but there were some things that we needed to do to meet code, and in order to do it, we needed to hire it out. So we did do that, and that turned out fine. We ended up with a safer system as a result. I don't worry about it at all now. You actually see it, part of it behind me here, all part of our off-grid system. But everything else we did ourselves. We did all the framing ourselves. We put up the posts. We moved all of our gravel for under the slab with just ourselves, some shovels, and a wheelbarrow, which sounds insane, but that's what we did. We did all the tongue and groove ourselves, all of our own plumbing, all of the interior wiring. We did all of that ourselves. And actually, if you're going to be an owner-builder in Kentucky, they I have low battery. Okay. If you're going to be an owner-builder in Kentucky, you do have to sign an affidavit saying that you're going to be the only person doing your plumbing. And I can't remember. I want to say electrical is a similar story. I could be wrong on that. But it may also vary by counties too. So, you got to do your research on that. But that's one of those things that kind of surprised us. Like,
Yeah.
you have to plug this in so it doesn't die. And, charging my phone with free power from the sun. Good stuff.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So you had a lot of friends and family help you then in the building a little bit?
A little bit here and there. We had some work days. We had like my sister-in-law and her husband came out, and one of our good friends from grade school, and some of our college friends who still live in the area. And then my husband's cousin and her husband, they came up a couple of times to help with the west Cordwood wall. They helped with that one. I think that's probably about it, though. We had some of our college buddies come up and help us put the stairs up, because the stairs came as one big piece, and we just put it up, and it was so they helped with that. But for the most part, it was just us, the two of us, and a lot of times it was just one of us at a time, and the other person would be watching our son or be at work. Like when we were doing the Cordwood walls, I was still working full time. And so some of those days I would go to work, and then I would put on my muddy jeans and my work boots, and I would come out here. I would, at that point we were doing the Cordwood, so I was like pointing the mortar, smoothing it out with like a really smooth butter knife type thing. That's called pointing. So I would come out and do that, because we used lime putty mortar, and it doesn't harden nearly as fast as a Portland mix. So we were able to build the wall one day and then come back the next day and be able to smooth the mortar still. And it worked a little bit better that way anyway, because it wasn't too wet. So, we would work that into our daily schedules and just kind of do whatever we needed to do. Especially like through the winter, there was a lot of time that we just couldn't get out here because it was either like too icy or snowy or whatever happened to be going on at the time. Like winter gets really busy for us, so we would leave certain tasks until next time, then one of us would get to come out and take care of it real quick or something like that.
Yeah. And you guys are currently completely off grid, except for you are off grid, you have the hotspot for your phone. Yeah. So that's awesome, guys. They don't really have, she said the only bills they've got as far as their house goes is, trash for now until they get to zero waste. And then, her internet, which is, it's her moneymaker. Yep. So she's going to have that. So that's yep. Awesome. And then what is your favorite thing about the way you live your life? Like, choosing to live off grid, choosing to leave your job and be, full-time home mom and that kind of
thing? It's really intentional. I don't think I realized until we lived out here how much, it's easy to float through your day and not think about like how much water you're using when you brush your teeth, or how much power you're using because you wanted to leave the light on in case you come back to that room, which like I used to do. Why did I do that? That doesn't make any sense. Now I think about those things a little bit more. We don't have our fridge on right now. So I think really hard about like what do I want to make? What is going to be the best bang for my buck, nutritionally speaking, economically, what stores well. I think about preparedness a lot more than I probably used to. Like, it always cracks me up when people are like, oh my gosh, preppers, they're burying ammo in the yard. I'm like, no, everybody should be prepared for something on some level.
Yes.
Like hurricanes happen every year. Tornadoes for us happen every year. And not being prepared for things, like now that I'm here and we've gone through this journey, I'm like, why was that even a thought, otherwise? So it's a lot more intentional, and being able to quit my job, as much as I loved my job and I loved my students and the people that I worked with, and I still miss all of them and think about them, but being able to stay home with my son and earn money from home while also being able to attend to him and help him learn and grow, and to build this home into a more productive homestead. It's all very intentional, and that's what I love about this and this way of life. Are some things harder? Yeah, because I do have to think about it more now. Like, there will be times when it's like last week, it was cloudy for 6 straight days, and we're like, okay, do we turn on the generator? Do we do some other things to try to stave that off? Because we have enough power, but sometimes you need a little bit more. And those are things that we'll learn as we go. It's definitely not for everybody, but it is something that you can think about doing. Or even if you don't live off grid, there are things that we do that anybody can do. Like, I think about how little power we use, and I thought, why did we even need to pay a $300 power bill in February in our old house? Like, why did we even need to do that? There are so many things we could have been doing to save ourselves power and money and resources, and still live a really good life in the process.
Yeah. I think we all oftentimes we're just doing something because everybody does it, and we're all stressed, and we're all in this rat race of making more money and doing this and doing that, and we haven't really just settled down to like just think like what is it that I really want from my life? Like, do I want to be working at a job for 50 years or 40 years? Like, is that really what I want? Or do I want to maybe work for myself from home, finding a way to do that, and being with my family, being more intentional and all of that? Yeah, it's awesome. And, I am a college graduate, and I have a degree, and I could easily be working somewhere and earning money. But when you look at the cost, and I have 3 young children, that I would be rushing around all the time. My children, I would have to wake them up super early. I would barely see them at night once we get home. I would probably be buying fast food more often because I'm going to be too stressed and rushed around to cook. And then, paying for daycare. By the time you pay for daycare, you're negating however much you made, and you're barely even turning a profit. And it's like, and I'm barely getting to see my children. And so there comes a time where you're like, I just want to just enjoy this life a little bit and enjoy my children a little bit and not just be super stressed out all the time. And I think, making that sacrifice, making a few sacrifices of expenditures in your family so that you can have more family time and maybe leave that job so you can be with your family more. But at the same time anymore, there's so many ways to make really awesome money from home with a blog like you do. I have a YouTube channel. I don't make hardly anything from that. I have a different home business that I make decent money from. And so there's so many different ways that people can earn money from home. And it's just like, find what your passion is and do that thing, because there's plenty of people out there on the internet that would love to learn from you, just like we're learning from you today about your journey, going off from living in the suburbs to going off grid. And, that's awesome. And that's been you just sharing your journey and sharing your building process has turned into an extra income for your family, which is awesome. So you get to be a stay-at-home mom, but also earn money at the same time. So it's awesome.
Yeah. And if you told me, 10 years ago, one day you're going to get to stay home and be with your family and make money off the internet, I'd be like, what? How? Why? I only started this blog, I guess, like almost 4 years now, because my mom's coworkers said, hey, she should write about all that random hippie stuff she does. Like, we were using our grass, and I made all my own cleaners, and we didn't even have maybe we had our kid at that point, but I was cloth diapering and doing all this, like we said, crunchy granola stuff. And so I just started this little blog to share about it. And then, it started taking off on Pinterest, this one thing about cloth diapers. And I thought, oh, maybe I have something here. And so I kept working it. And I have a lot of really great friends who have helped me along the way. Some of them are watching. Hey, guys. To even think that would be a possibility is just still kind of mind-blowing to me, that I, can be at home and help make my son into a better person. Because, like, we did the rushing around and we did the daycare, and his daycare was phenomenal. They were amazing. It was an in-home daycare, and they are the most loving people on this whole planet. But, you know, the rushing around, the getting up early, the impatience, and the lack of time in the day to see each other, it started to change his behavior in negative ways. And we saw that, and we thought, even if things are tight for a bit, the best course of action for our family is for me to leave my job. And that was a really tough decision. That was a really hard thing to do, but I haven't regretted it once. It's been, he is so much better. He gets, like, we get to learn together every day, and it's been amazing to get to do. So, I'm glad we made that choice. And it was a long road to get there, like the road to get to this house. We started dreaming about building a Cordwood house over 10 years ago at this point. We've been married for 12 years this year, and we've had the stack of Mother Earth news magazines for years. And we'd see all the pretty pictures and think, oh, wouldn't that be nice to do one day? Well, we started making a plan, and one day came, and now we live here. And that still blows my mind. But we're not special in that way. Any of you watching can do that. You just have to want it, and you have to just do it. So many of us get paralysis by analysis. We're like, oh, well, if I did this and we get blah. And we planned meticulously, but we did it. That's the difference. You have to go out and do whatever it is you want to do. Just go do it. Just go do it.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And that's one thing, like, I'm a firm believer that everybody has a passion and a talent and a gift, and you need to harness it. And a lot of us, we're going to allow those things to be buried with us in the grave when we die. And no, the world didn't even get to see it. We didn't even really get to see it come to its full potential. And I think we have those gifts, talents, interests, abilities for a reason, because the world is meant to learn from it, or we're meant to share it. And so you have this passion or this desire to go off grid. That's for a reason, like, go for it, or whatever your passion is, guys. Just really just go for it, and make a plan, because a dream is just a dream until you make a plan, and then you can start to actually make it into reality. So that's what they did. They took their dream and they started making a plan, and then they just took it step by step from there. And here they are now. They're living in their dream home that they've been wanting for over 10 years. So that's awesome. Well, Emily, I just want to thank you so much for doing this interview. I guess I have one more question. Question. Okay. Is there anything you miss from being on grid or in a different location?
Sometimes I miss how close we live to things. Like our old house, before we sold it, we were like in the thick of everything. We were near a major interstate. We were next to all the shopping. And you could just like go out and get whatever you needed at any given time. And now we have to really plan out our trips, and not even so much like making our trips more efficiently. It's more like, can I get there on time? Because I am just chronically not late, but I tend to get there right at the time. So like, I don't think we've made it to church on time once yet.
No, we're late all the time. We are always late. Our church is 40 minutes from us, and then we go there twice on Sunday. So we go to church, come home for a few hours, and we go to church again on Sunday, and it's just like so crazy. And I'm like, we're supposed to rest on Sunday, aren't we? A little bit, but we do so much driving. We end up driving for, over 2 hours, 2.5 hours every Sunday. But yeah, so that's our church, but the closest grocery store is like 25-30 minutes away. And so I try and buy at least a whole week's worth of groceries. I'd rather get to the place where I'm buying 2 weeks at a time and really do good meal planning, because you just want to plan ahead so that way you don't have to go out as much. And every time you go to town, it's a half an hour, it's a total in an hour of driving. That's a decent amount of gas. And so we're trying to cut down our expenses and that kind of thing so we can live a little bit more free. I would would say for me is some of those convenience things as well. Like, I can't just order Chinese or a pizza, and I like me some
No.
Chinese, okay? I like me some crab rangoon or some egg roll, all right? Some General Tso's chicken, all right? Comment below your favorite Chinese dish, all right? So I like Chinese or, whatever, and you can't get those convenience meals. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but we do have a little bit more freedom, I think. I love the stars out here. They're so bright. It's crazy. And just, the freedom to run barefoot or, wear your bathing suit out in your garden. You don't have to worry about someone looking at you or whatever. It's just, a more natural, like private, free life. And I love that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then those convenience things, like, those weren't going to be healthy choices for you anyway. So when you have to plan out, you're, like I said before, a lot more intentional. You tend to make better choices for your health and things like that. So yeah, I can't go get Chinese food, but if I think ahead enough, like I actually have Chinese food planned for dinner tonight, and I have it, waiting to cook for later.
Awesome.
And you make those changes. Like, we don't have a microwave, and I don't really miss it, like, or a toaster. And my mom, before we moved, she's like, so you don't have a toaster? I'm like, no. Or a microwave, but you use a microwave all the time. I'm like, well, yeah, but you don't need it to live. And we adapted our, like, we have to think a little bit more about, like, how we reheat our leftovers if we have them. A lot of times I'll cook just enough for that one meal and then, do again the next day. Just so I don't have to deal with it, because some things don't reheat very well. But no, we don't have a microwave, and we don't have a toaster. And I tell you what, if you want the best toast ever, just butter some bread and put it on a cast iron skillet, and it is like the best thing ever. Like, toaster toast is just peasant toast to me now. It's no good anymore. So buttery.
Get out of here, peasants.
Peasant toast. So, go make your own. So good. I don't think
cast irons make everything better.
Oh. And like, talking about making healthy choices, like, I am not in that idealized place. Like, we're not eating everything we don't even have a garden yet. We still have machinery rolling through here. In a world, I have a garden, and I only go shopping out of my garden, and I make things that I like myself. And no, we have a box of Pop-Tarts in the kitchen right now because I like Pop-Tarts, and that's okay. Like, wherever you're at is fine. Like,
half crunchy.
Yeah, we still have Pop. Eventually, have I made my own Pop-Tarts? Yeah. Were they as good? I got some work to do.
Yeah.
Little choices at a time will get you to where you want to go.
Absolutely.
You don't have to do everything all over. And if that means you have Pop-Tarts.
Small changes over time equals big results. I'm a huge believer in that. Yeah. Just make little changes here and there, and eventually it's going to turn into this amazing snowball, and you're going to be doing way better than you did before. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Emily. She is from accidentalhippies.com. She's got her blog. Yeah. Go ahead and go follow her on her blog. See everything. You can see the pictures of her building process and all of that. I just want to thank everybody for hopping on here on this live. Thank you, Emily, for hopping on and allowing me to interview. It was amazing getting to know you. I hope that we can continue getting to know each other, and then maybe someday my family could maybe come visit yours and see your amazing Cordwood home, and because that is such a passion of ours and something that we want for our family as well. But this video, thanks to everyone who's hopping on live. It'll be on my wall here on Facebook, and I will also upload it onto my YouTube channel as well, which is The Sustainable Mama on YouTube. So you guys can always catch it there and share it from there. Thanks everyone for hopping on, and thank you, Lydia, again. Or not Lydia, I'm sorry. Lydia is commenting. Thank you, Emily, again.
Do it. Toasted bread with butter. That is the best. Everybody go do that right now for lunch. Yeah. It's going to be awesome.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye. Bye, Emily. Thank you again.
Bye.